Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. When talking about the 2024 quarterbacks, kind of dawned on me that we never really talked about just how all the quarterbacks kind of did in this past season. So I thought I'd make a few videos going over how everyone did. I'm going to separate into two videos. So this one will be obviously for the AFC, and then probably the next video coming out will be about how I think the NFC did. All in all, this was a great year for quarterbacks, especially with the AFC. The AFC has always kind of been the conference of quarterbacks, and really this was kind of the first time it really wasn't a huge standout, and I think that's a good thing in the end run that we saw a lot more guys kind of step up that we didn't see before. We'll get into that kind of down the road once the video starts, but yeah, but without further ado, let's do this. All right, let's get right into it. I'm gonna try to spend as much time as I can on these quarterbacks to not make the video forever. There's quite a bit of them, but let's start with the tragedy here with Texans quarterback CJ Stroud. Not a good year for Stroud. Especially at the beginning of the year right here, the Texans offense was doing a whole lot of nothing and literally nothing. But then these last 6 weeks, the offense started clicking a lot better, and they won 6 in a row. Obviously, that defense is fantastic. Obviously, in the playoffs, rough way to go out. Not a good postseason for CJ Stroud. So it was a tough year, I would say, for CJ Stroud. I can't remember the last fall off like CJ Stroud where he had one of the greatest rookie of the year years and has pretty much regressed every year since then. I know the Texans have felt with a lot of injuries and their offensive line is terrible, but this is, CJ Stroud's going to year 4, and this is a big year for him. He's essentially playing for that big extension. Disappointing year for Stroud. Next year is going to be telling a lot for him. All right, Mr. Trevor Lawrence of the Jacksonville Jaguars. I mean, who would have thought the Jaguars would be the 4th seed in the AFC? Liam Cohen and Trevor Lawrence just click so well. And we finally saw that Trevor Lawrence that we really haven't seen, especially after him getting that big contract. I mean, he just balled, to be honest. He just had a ball-in season. There were a few rough games in there, I won't lie. I mean, the sky's the limit for the Jaguars going to next year. I'm making a hot takes video, and a spoiler for that one, I think the Jaguars are going to be the 2 seed next season, and I think a big part of that is going to be because of Trevor Lawrence. Huge shout out to Trevor Lawrence. Fantastic year, and I'm excited to see what next year looks like. All right, let's talk about the rookie of the bunch, Mr. Cam Ward of the Tennessee Titans. It was a pretty typical rookie year, I think. I definitely don't think that this being the season right after 2024, where all those guys were really good, helps Cam Ward's case. But I think it was a rookie year that at least earned another year. Really rough start here for the beginning of the year. But if you kind of see right here at the end, he really started clicking and kind of figured things out. A big issue for the Titans, I felt when watching the games, was just a lot of stagnicity. And eventually that led to turnovers, which as you can see with some of these games right here. I think Cam Ward's fine. Obviously the Titans are not, they don't have a lot of good talent on their team, but I really like the coaching staff changes they made, bringing in Robert Saleh and Brian Dable. Brian Dable is a great coach to, help make these quarterbacks. He did it with Josh Allen, Jackson Dart to an extent. Cam Ward has the physical traits. He, makes good decisions most of the time. He has what you would want in a starting NFL quarterback. Obviously, being the first overall pick, there's going to be an expectation that you hold over not being in that position. But I think for the most part, we were just reminded that rookies can struggle in the league, or they tend to struggle in the league. I think Cam Ward will bounce back, and it'll be interesting to see how he does in year 2. We started this division with the tragedy. Let's end this division with the tragedy. Mr. Daniel Jones of the Colts. Daniel Jones at some point was playing as an MVP favorite, and the Colts were the best team in the league. Slowly, injuries started to kind of while down, and their defense just not was as good as producing. Jonathan Taylor was stopped producing as much as he was. A rough way to go out here. I remember very vividly, myself included, I thought for sure Daniel Jones was going to just bottom out. Comes to the Colts and just balls, and he got himself the transaction tag. Yeah, so he'll be back. I don't know when he's going to be back, but as a Colts fan, you got to be excited. There's got to be some optimism here. I think he tore his Achilles. I think it was an Achilles injury that took him out, but I just hope he's able to come back and play at that level he did. A great year by Daniel Jones. That offense was efficient when he was playing. I think they were historically one of the most efficient offenses of all time. Shout out Daniel Jones. Way to bounce back, and I really hope this injury doesn't, that progression we saw, I hope he doesn't just stop it there. Moving on to the AFC North, we'll start with the old man of the bunch, Mr. Aaron Rodgers. Here are the Steelers. Certainly was solid. I don't think, there's nothing really to be too afraid of, but obviously it was not an Aaron Rodgers-esque season. but Aaron Rodgers is also 42. And I mean, he's on the Steelers, and the Steelers are just forever cursed to be 8-9. So a big issue I saw when the very brief amount of Steelers games I did was just the offense was very stagnant. It seemed like out of DK Metcalf or Darnell Washington, Rodgers just did not want to throw to any of the other receivers. He would be throwing it to fucking Kenneth Gainwell, who's a running back, by the way. A very solid running back, don't get me wrong. A very brutal way going out of the year right here with that loss against the Texans. And from what it looked like that was it. It was going to hang it up. It was a fun year, fun career. And then the Steelers go ahead and hired Mike McCarthy. And it seems like Rodgers is going to be back. I really hope Rodgers retires. I just don't want him seeing bottom out. I'm a Packers fan, so yeah. I honestly don't have much faith for next year if he does come back. I think this was his time to leave. He didn't bottom out, was still solid. Yeah, I just don't have much faith that he will have another good year, if I'm being honest. So hopefully he does. Obviously, future NFL Hall of Famer, one of the best quarterbacks of all time. So not much to be said here about Rodgers, but Unk may need to hang it up though. Moving on to Lamar Jackson, the quarterback for the Baltimore Ravens. Tough year for the Ravens overall. Obviously missing out on the playoffs with that Week 18 loss to Rodgers and the Steelers, ironically. But just a tough year overall. I mean, the Ravens' defense was not as good as it usually was. And Lamar was hurt for, I think, about a month. Yeah, right here, missed about a month. And I believe in those games, the Ravens only lost. The Ravens for the season, like 1-5. And even when Lamar came back from his injury, you could just tell he wasn't fully healthy. I believe he had a hamstring issue, and it just, the way he played was completely different. Obviously, Lamar's strength is his athleticism, him moving around the pocket, making crazy throws, crazy plays from anywhere on the field. And it just seemed like he wasn't able to do that as efficiently this year. So hopefully this offseason he can get healed up, rested up, and ready to get back in the saddle next year. I do think in the grand scheme of things, this is just a fluke, and Lamar will be put back into that MVP conversation. Obviously, it was still a solid statistic year, but I guess in the realm of being the quarterbacks like Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow, who we're going to talk about in a second, you know, those guys that are, you know, top 3, top 4 quarterbacks in the league, the standard that they're usually held at, a bit of a disappointing year. I mean, we look at last year, he threw 40. I still, by the way, don't know how he didn't win MVP last year, but just look at the difference from last year to this year. And from 41 touchdowns to 21, I know he missed a few games, but it sucks. You know, a hamstring injury is a big injury too for a quarterback that plays like Lamar. So I think he'll be fine. Again, I think this is all just a fluky season for the Ravens. Similar to Lamar, another quarterback in that top echelon of quarterbacks that had a bit of a rough year was Joe Burrow of the Bengals right here. This was a very typical Bengals season in the sense that they started the season out very sloppy. They did win, but, you know, not great games by Joe Burrow in that offense. And then he gets hurt, and then he comes back, and they all of a sudden make a push for the playoffs. Except this year, they did not make a push for the playoffs. They lost pretty much as soon as he was back. We all know the type of quarterback Joe Burrow can be. Joe Burrow can easily be one of the best quarterbacks in the league, and really his team is the one thing holding him back. He did make the Pro Bowl, but I mean, I think a lot of that was just that. A lot of the AFC guys were not going to do it or couldn't be in it. But I mean, you got to look at this situation and ask yourself, like, does Burrow ask for a trade? Like, does he force his way out of Cincinnati? Because you see a team like the Vikings, who have a very good roster, that are really that elite quarterback away from making that Super Bowl push. But obviously, we'll have to see. Nothing's confirmed yet. But I mean, it's another year of Joe Burrow's career wasted. 2022 was going to be that last year they made the playoffs. And then obviously in 2021, they made it to the Super Bowl where they sadly lost. Frustrating year. I think there's a tough, disappointing year, and there's a frustrating year. I think this was definitely a frustrating year for Joe Burrow. All right, we'll do the AFC North rookie, Shedeur Sanders. I know the Browns had Dylan Gabriel, and I believe also Joe Flacco started. But Dylan Gabriel's fucking awful, and Joe Flacco's old. So we'll just talk about Shedeur in this one. By all means, this was not a good year by Shedeur Sanders. A ton of turnovers was the big issue. A ton of turnovers. It was honestly the same issues he had at Colorado too, was just holding on the ball for way too long, taking sacks and throwing turnovers. Yes, Shedeur made the Pro Bowl, but I mean, this is not a Pro Bowl, you know, type of season right here. With that being said, I do think Shador should be the quarterback going into next year. I know there's some talks about Deshaun Watson putting up a good fight. I honestly just can't see Deshaun Watson putting up a fight like that anymore. So I think Shador should be the guy. You did draft him, and have him develop an offseason and see what can. The sky's the limit. Honestly, I really like Shador as a player. I think Shador just cleans up honestly that holding onto the ball issue. And I think that's gonna fix like a lot of the issues he has. So I like Shador. I'm rooting for Shador. I mean, it was a bad year. No matter how you say it was a bad year. And I hope next year's better for him. So, all right, let's move on to the AFC West and probably the guy you're all hoping to see and the guy that kind of pushed me to make this video. The day I'm recording this is Friday, March 6th. And Geno Smith was just, or he's not technically released, but it was just announced that the Raiders are going to release him on the start of the NFL year. I remember going into this year, Geno Smith, I was really excited to see what Geno Smith was going to do with the Raiders. Had a bit of a bounce back kind of career revival in Seattle, Comes to the Raiders, they're going to be really solid, and the Raiders got the #1 pick, and he was probably the worst quarterback in the league last year. I mean, it was a bad year. By all things considered, it was a terrible year. I just made a video about Geno Smith, so I won't go into crazy detail about him. But the Geno Smith, Pete Carroll extravaganza did not work. He's released. I'm honestly not sure how he's going to be viewed as a player. Personally, I think he can still be a solid backup somewhere. I think if teams needs a backup, why not? But after a year like this, it's hard to look past that. It was bad. It was bad. Moving on to a tragedy, we'll do Patrick Mahomes, quarterback for the Kansas City Chiefs. Tough year for Mahomes and the Chiefs. Statistically was not bad, but this was not a typical Pat Mahomes season. If you watch a lot of the Chiefs games, which they are usually on a lot of primetime games or a lot of popular games, he just didn't play very good. He threw a lot more turnovers than he usually does. With Pat Mahomes and the Chiefs, we always saw the Chiefs offense especially just not play as explosive as they once were, and somehow they crawled away into the playoffs, and just like that they turned things on and would win the Super Bowl. This was probably the first year where that offense was not playing well, and they honestly just never turned it on. And a lot of these times, I know I just said Mahomes didn't have a great year. He still had a great year, obviously, but kind of similar to Lamar and Joe Burrow, in that echelon of the standard we hold Mahomes at, it was not a typical Mahomes year. But there were a lot of these games where he was running for his damn life. He was crawling to keep his team on his back, and the team just really let him down. And to make things worse, in this loss against the Chargers right here, would tear his ACL, but I'm pretty sure he absolutely decimated his knee, and that was kind of the writing on the wall at that point. There's talks that he can play week 1. I personally don't think he should. I think, or at least, if he does come back next year, wait for him to be fully healthy. The Chiefs also have a really high pick coming up. I think they can get Jeremiah Love. He might go a little bit earlier, but if he falls to that #9, they're for sure going to draft him. And then if Mahomes just doesn't come back and the Chiefs are terrible again, worst case scenario, they get another top pick, and then they draft Jeremiah Smith. And we have a healthy Patrick Mahomes, Jeremiah Love, and Jeremiah Smith, and we're all fucked. So, all right, moving on to Mr. Hypothetical himself, Justin Herbert. And the season pretty much ended the way it usually does for Mr. Hypothetical. What if the Chargers start out the year, the 3-0 start here? I remember the Chargers were legitimate Super Bowl contenders, and just slowly as the season went on, yes, they won a lot of games, made the playoffs, but they just stopped looking as legitimate. Obviously, when you lose both of your starting tackles that are both all-pro level talents, it's hard to go far. And then on top of that, Justin Herbert, I believe, against the Raiders right here, sustained a left hand injury. I think he broke a bone, actually. Who knows? What if? Things were a little bit different. They kind of bottomed out in the playoffs here against the Patriots. I mean, 6 sacks, 5 sacks here, 4 sacks here, 7 sacks against the Eagles. Yeah, Justin Herbert just could not stay upright. Obviously, Justin Herbert is an elite quarterback. There's no denying he's definitely a top 10 quarterback, I'd say. At some point, the what ifs. When does that kind of run out? And when does what if turn into why did he not? They have to execute better, to simply put it. I'm interested to see how things go. They did hire former Dolphins coach Mike McDaniel. I mean, Justin Herbert is chilling, I guess. At the same time, he's dating Madison Beer and living in LA. I like Justin Herbert, great quarterback, but he needs to take that next step. All right, we'll end the AFC West with Bo Nix. I just made a video about him, so I won't go into super big detail about it, but I really like Bo Nix. Was an okay season. I mean, it was a good year, but there were a few games where he definitely stagnated. I do think him and Shaw Payton are kind of figuring each other out, kind of figuring out the best way to go about it is. Another spoiler from my hot takes video, I think Bo Nix will be top 5 in MVP voting next year. I really like Bo Nix. He's a perfect balance of smart, methodical football and making those explosive big plays when you need them. Obviously, a very tough ending to Bo Nix this season. Would break his ankle in this playoff game against the Bills right before they went to the AFC Championship. And I mean, if Bo Nix plays, there's a very good chance that the Broncos are in the playoffs, and they put up probably a better fight than the Patriots do in the Super Bowl. Tough way to go out, but a huge leap year 2 of his career, and I think we'll take an even bigger leap in year 3. All right, going into our final division here, the AFC East, we'll start with another top echelon quarterback, Josh Allen. The Bills were never bad, so to say, but they were just kind of, it was like, oh, like they just didn't seem like the normal Bills, especially with Josh Allen. There's some pretty big stinkers this year. The same thing with the Bills. Like, they've always kind of struggled with receiving talent. They did just get DJ Moore, so we'll see how that can change things. I similar to the Ravens, I think this is very much a fluky season for Josh Allen, especially because NFL reporters their little baby can do no wrong here. I know they're going to have a new coach, but I think they'll still be an elite team. But I mean, at the same time, Josh Allen's completely chilling. He's top athlete in the world, makes millions of dollars, and just married and impregnated Haley Steinfeld. So fuck you, Josh Allen, but I'm hopeful I'm pretty positive he'll be back to normal next year. Ooh, yikes. Tua Tagovailoa, quarterback of the Miami Dolphins. Yeah, this was not a good year for Tua at all. In fact, he ended the year on the bench. The Mike McDaniel Miami extravaganza experiment completely imploded this year, and just nothing went well. Tua had some better games that kind of helped his stats overall, but he was not good. If you watch the Dolphins game, Tua was just not playing good, efficient football. Obviously, he's in a bit of a tough contract spot. The Dolphins, if they do release them, would have to eat up that money. And I don't know if a team's going to want to trade and take up that contract. And of course, now the Dolphins are a team being tied to Malik Willis, but a tough year for Tua. I think we all kind of were expecting it. Tua's been a solid quarterback, honestly, coming out of Alabama. He's been slowly progressing, and then he got hurt. Obviously, he had a lot of concussions, and we were kind of waiting or expecting to see the implosion, and this was it, and a tough way to go out. So, not a good year for Tua. All right, Justin Fields was fucking terrible, quarterback on the New York Jets. Do not let this stat line fool you. This was, the epitome of garbage time and nothing stats. In fact, there were so many times where he just ran when he didn't need to run, and honestly probably gave up a lot of points that the Jets could have had to win games. Yeah, this was not a good year for Fields. He too was hurt, but he just got benched. Somehow Fields ends up on a new team starting. They'll finally figure it out. They never do. And on to the next one. So I fully anticipate that'll happen next season with Fields. But yeah, Fields was pretty fucking terrible. Similar to Geno Smith. He was in that video, and we talked about him already. But all right. We're going to end the video on a happy note with Mr. Drake May, damn near MVP of the season, quarterback for the New England Patriots. And what a year for Drake May. I don't think anyone expected this jump to be. I made a video about him already, so I won't go into super big detail, but Drake May never had a very few games where he just took over. But in a lot of these games, he kept the Patriots in winning positions, and he played good, smart, clean football. And that's all you need. In fact, it led them to the Super Bowl. Again, to be in year 2, and to be, I think he lost MVP by 1 vote, and to be in the Super Bowl, the sky is quite literally the limit for this guy. We'll have to see what happens next year. If anything, the Patriots are just going to make more moves. Stephon Diggs is also going to be released during the new NFL year. So if they can get some new receivers, receivers or some more receivers, they can make another push to be in the Super Bowl. But fantastic year from Drake May. The sky's the limit for this kid, and yeah, fantastic way for him to use. All right, that's gonna be it for today's video. Be on the lookout for the NFC guys next. Yeah, I enjoy making these videos. I'm glad to see that you guys are enjoying them too. If you guys have any recommendation or would like to see a topic about a certain player, position, or whatever, let me know, and I'd be more than happy to do that for you guys. So thank you guys. Have a good one.